Hello, today I'm going to demonstrate using VSCode with a Bitcoin full node on a Raspberry Pi and how to retrieve Bitcoin price via an API. Hola, voy a demostrar cómo usar VSCode con un nodo completo de Bitcoin en una Raspberry Pi y cómo recupera el precio de Bitcoin a través de la API. Okay, so I've got multiple tabs here. We're going to gradually work through them all in sequence. So the first thing I wanted to cover, which just occurred to me today, was how long will it be before running a full node will necessitate having a new hard drive, and then obviously that will then create a problem because you'll have to do a new download of the all the blocks or copy them across from your old hard drive, but really it's the cost implications. So yeah, at the moment it's not even half a terabyte. So according to this interactive chart, which has shown an increase since early January when the whole ordinals thing kicked off, at what rate will it increase? And it's increasing at about 18% a year. So I would imagine if you project that forward, I'm not going to worry about that. But out of interest, the cost is £70 for a 2 terabyte hard drive. That's not a brand name I recognise. There we go. So a Samsung one, Crucial. We're talking about £90, which is what, about $100. Okay, so let's look at this. Is a bit dark, isn't it? I don't know how I'll make it light. This is a world map showing, maybe it's just dark because I've got sunglasses on. This is a world map showing all of the nodes. Well, the visible nodes. So as you can see, we've got North America. I suspect some actually only come online when people wake up. I mean, I leave mine running 24/7, but possibly some don't, for various reasons. You can see that Europe's really got bright. It's got a lot of nodes over Germany. I know Holland's quite good with Bitcoin as well. A few in Paris, Helsinki. So yeah, Europe and even London and UK's getting, and Ireland, one or two more than they used to be. So the number of nodes is now typically showing something like, let's go back, 16,710. And if you watched one of my older videos, you'll have seen that it was on about 15,000. So yeah, good increase in the past. I don't know when I made that video. I think it was about last December. So in 6 months, it's gone up by 10%. Pretty good. Reachable and unreachable. So there's probably some that have got turned off and might never get turned on again. Yeah, there we go. Right, next. So I wanted to show you this. Bitcoin full node with ordinal protocol support on Google Cloud. So this is what's obviously Google are in the business of making money, and they think they can make money by catching kind of the attention of the NFT brigade. So ordinals, Bitcoin NFT, inscription on Bitcoin ledger requires fully synced ledger, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, anyway, enough of that. Look at the price. $122 per month for what really you can run. That would buy you a Raspberry Pi in 1 month, and then you'd be able to in 1 month of using Google, you could buy a Raspberry Pi and just be set up for life. They are they are mugging you off. Don't fall for it, people. Look, so Google, obviously, and why would you want to do that? Because it's all set up. You're not going to learn anything. If you're into ordinals, then good luck to you. But that's not what I'm going to be discussing here. I guess they might also be profiteering because the Raspberry Pi is out of stock everywhere, or is in the UK. I don't know, is in the US or other parts of the world. Can you get the Raspberry Pi 4? This is the 8GB one. Let me just go back and see if I can get one with a. You need mine's cookies. My Raspberry Pi is the 4GB, and it's running fine. And it has run fine for, well, yeah, 6 months or so. Yeah, back order as well. So I'm very happy, very smug that I bought one when I did. If you haven't got one, then yeah, commiserations. But there's other ways. Get an old laptop. I mean, get an old laptop, delete Windows, install Ubuntu. I put it in a corner, and yeah, you can run your own full node on Ubuntu. So yeah, how to run a Bitcoin node. If you go to river.com, learn how to run a Bitcoin node. Excuse me. All the instructions there. Quick note about uptime. You do want it on 24/7, ideally. So if you live somewhere where the power goes off, it's not the end of the world. I mean, that's another good reason to run a laptop if you get power cuts or power outages or whatever. So you can run it on the computer, blah, blah, blah. Raspberry Pi has enough processing power to operate Bitcoin node and only costs about $50 if you can get one. 1TB hard drive. So terabyte hard drive, around about 90, yeah. To be honest, if it's going to be 10 years until you need a bigger hard drive, just get a 1TB one. So that's about 80 quid, say, plus 50-ish. So £130, about $150. And you're up and running. You're off to the races. We'll get to ChatGPT in a minute. Once you've kind of set up your own node, then you could potentially go off and explore Lightning as well. Don't know what Lightning is. It's a layer 2 protocol built on top of the Bitcoin base layer, and it enables you to send payments, instant payments, with no commission, no fees, no charges, or absolutely minimal. 0.01% or something ridiculously cheap. Right, ChatGPT. So this morning I I logged into my Raspberry Pi Bitcoin node, and there was a couple of things I wanted to do. So ChatGPT, and I just wanted to, more as a refresher really, because it's been 6 months since I did much on my Bitcoin. So I just thought, well, if ChatGPT was trained in 2021, does its knowledge of Bitcoin Core and Python code to query Bitcoin Core, is that still any good? And it turns out it is, really, most of it. I wanted to try and confuse it, so I asked it if it knew how to get the Bitcoin price. And yeah, I think second time it kind of then just resorted to CoinGecko's API, and just make a request to CoinGecko. Which is kind of what I've written already, and I'll show you that a bit later. I wrote a small program in Rust which I run on various machines, and it just enables me to type. I just type FBTC on the command line, and then it goes off and does all the stuff and gets the Bitcoin price. Let's do a spoiler alert. So, where is it? It's oh, there it is. Am I on the right? Let me just check. Here we go. FBTC. There we go. How long was that? Was that, what, half a second? So there we go. 28895. as of 21st of June 2023. If you're watching this in 2026, yeah, you probably think, wow, that Python 360 is now worth 3 million quid. Maybe, I don't know. Right, let's have a look at what's next. Yeah, so go to developer.bitcoin.org and you'll get all the RPC, the remote procedure calls, the API documentation for a full node and making queries to it. So there we go, get blockchain info. So if we just jump back across, I'm actually logged into my Raspberry Pi here. So you don't need Python code, you could just type this. But obviously we want to do stuff programmatically. Just to show you this is the size on the disk. So although that graph said for 8-9 gig, there's other bits and pieces as well. So I don't know why there's such a big difference. But if I do df-h, and then if I look at 563. So it's 64% used. And let's say if it's going up at kind of, what was it? How much it had gone up? It hadn't gone up much this year, had it? Was it 40? Was it half a gig? Can't remember. I think it was something like that. Was it 0.4 of a gig it had gone up? So let's go back. What had it gone up by? Then it will be 600 in a year's time, let's say. Yeah, you got ages, got years. Shouldn't worry about it. And as we know, the replacement 2 terabyte hard drive is going to be cheap enough when the time comes in 10 years' time, assuming nothing drastic happens. Right, get blockchain info. So that's doing it with kind of, you can do it with curl as well, but that's actually doing it with the Bitcoin core, with returns an object containing various state info regarding blockchain processing. So then you get the number of blocks, size on disk, and so on. You just saw. So why did I start the video with some Spanish? Well, big up to El Salvador in the southern hemisphere, because I think a lot of the growth will happen in the global south, because these will become earlier tools for monetization, which opens a new economy that they didn't have access to earlier. Without being political, a lot of the global south has been kind of stitched up by the global north. So the global south will probably find reasons and have more motivation to switch away to their own monetary system that can't be debased by foreign governments and so on. So I was just looking up how to talk about SegWit. The block size. So that also increased in 2017 a little bit. Originally, the blocks were 1 megabyte. But it has increased. It's not a kind of a hard and fast rule to the block size now. It's kind of up to 4 megabytes a block, but it's not kind of definitive. But as you saw, you can see the rate at which the reason for keeping the block so small is basically so that you can have all of the nodes around the world forming some sort of consensus and having a backup of the full blockchain. Ship coins like Ethereum, you can't do that, and I'm not even going to go there because. Right, retrieve Bitcoin price via API. If you want to just have a quick demo of what I did here, so you can come here, github.com, RBTC. If you go to code, you can get the HTTPS. Click on that. And let's install that on the Raspberry Pi. So I'm just going to paste that in, Control A, and do git clone. In a second, I'll talk about how to connect to the Raspberry Pi via VSCode. Basically, you can see the bottom left corner. That's how you do it. So this is a Ubuntu laptop, about 5 years old. It's I think it's 8 gig of RAM. Right, so that's now downloaded RBTC repo onto the Ubuntu laptop. Now, if we cd to RBTC, you'll see the standard Rust folder structure, and then if we do cargo build. So even if you don't know about Rust, just download some software, download the source code, the Rust source code, just clone it from GitHub. And once this compiled it, so you just do git clone, name of the repo, then you just do cargo build, and then you can just run it. The binary is inside a folder called target. So if you want to copy it out of there and move it into usr/bin or whatever, then you can. So this, I can't remember the actual code. Let's have a look at it. I think it was querying CoinGecko as well, to be honest with you. So main.rs is where the code is, and it's querying CoinStats. I don't even know anything about them, to be fair, but it was just a free API. So if it stops working one day, I'll just go and use CoinGecko or somebody else. So you can't get the price. You can't get the price from your full node, because that's not what a full node's about. That's not the purpose of a full node. And really, the price is an arbitrary thing, which is just the price of Bitcoin. 1 Bitcoin, it costs 1 Bitcoin as far as Bitcoin is concerned. If you want to find out how much it costs to buy in some other fiat currency, that's your problem. But yeah, so there it is in green. Look, so that's the binary executable. So then you can just copy that to user bin or something like that. So cb rbtc usr/bin. Then you just need to do sudo. There we go. So then if you actually went and ran it, well, it runs anyway, but you could run it from anywhere then. So BTC, a Python 360 Python fan, then you probably want to see some Python code. So, right, better late than never. Here is the code. So what I've done is connected to the Raspberry Pi. So saying editing on, so I've SSH'd from using VS Code. I've used connect to host. So you go down to bottom left. If you've not got that, then you just need to do view status bar. Ticket. Sometimes I get rid of the status bar just for a bit more real estate, but connect to host. It's already stored that there. You can add a new SSH host, configure the hosts. So as long as you know the username and password, then you'll be off to the races. So yeah. I didn't want to do that. It's trying to open a new instance. Anyway, there we go. So if we just go back to the command line, I'm still on the Raspberry Pi now, by the way. So I've got a directory called moo, which I was kind of, you just sometimes you create. Let me just get rid of RBTC, but while I remember. Can't type. If you want to know what the R stood for, I think it was it Rust or was it retrieve? I can't remember. I think it meant retrieve. And I did another one called FBTC, which was find Bitcoin. It doesn't matter. Right. So this is some code I wrote when I did my Bitcoin videos last year. Most of the code still works, thankfully, which is good. That's pretty much the thing with Bitcoin Core. Virtually everything is kind of backwards compatible. occasionally some of the RPC commands change slightly. Occasionally you'll find you need to use a hyphen, or you don't need to use a hyphen before the command. But right, what one am I going to show you? I think I called it get block. No. There we go. So that's the one that's open on the screen. Okay, so one thing to check on your full node, if you're running a Bitcoin full node, just to check whether you're actually participating or you're actually getting, whether you've got a full node with the entire block. So you see it says initial block download. When you first set up your full node, it will say initial block download. If you've got Tor switched on, it probably might say that for 3 or 4 weeks even. It's not quick at all. So if you're planning on experimenting with a Bitcoin full node, don't think you're going to be doing it anytime soon. I'd encourage you to use Tor, otherwise you're, well, as you saw on the Bitcoiners, I don't know why some people still don't use Tor. It's probably a good reason. But so if you do connection count, 32, 33, that's how many other nodes your node is talking to. So that's what makes this such a decentralized distributed network. And yeah, that's what makes it so anti-fragile. Right. This is the code which I actually, well, I was a bit rusty, so I just I opened it up from a while ago, and I've already got on my Raspberry Pi, I've already got my username and password set as environment variables. If you're not sure how to do that, it depends whether you are going to be turning your machine on or off. Really, for persistence, you need to add your environment variables to a .env file, which I've got down there. Do you see that? It's just by my, just there, just above my webcam. Scroll down. There it is there. I can't show you it because it's secret, but so the user and the password come from there. The port is 8332, so that's that bit there. And then all I've done is I've just added in the 3 functions. So up here you will just need to, in fact, is auth proxy used? So this is basically setting up the username, password, and the putting in the local host because it's actually running on the Raspberry Pi itself. Right, so the first function, get block info. So what you're doing is you're just getting the response JSON back from the full node and you are passing it. So you're getting out the blocks, the best block hash, and at the end I've just got the block info, which is all of it. So that was called get block info. This is get block hash. So it's the hash of the block. So each block on the Bitcoin blockchain has a hash, unique hash. So we get that there. And then the block height. So the block height, obviously a new block gets added every 10 minutes. And the block height here, return block height. The block hash of the current block there. And you know what the miners are doing? They're basically trying to solve a hashing challenge where they have to find a hash using a nonce plus the hash of the block, and it needs to have that many zeros. I think that's right. It's been a while since I read the but yeah, read this book and then you'll know more about it. And then let's print the block info, which is what you've already seen. So that was the best block hash. The blocks. So yeah, we've got the best block hash there. You've got the blocks, which you've just seen. Chain is main. So you've got mainnet, testnet, and regnet. Regnet. Initial block download force. That's because I have a full copy of the entire Bitcoin blockchain. Median time. Is that since the epoch? Yeah, 168,734,6100. Oh, because that was a few seconds. Um, if that had been made 10 minutes ago, that would be what? Oh, is that to 2199 versus 6? So that is. Oh, we've got an hour's time difference. Yeah, because this is in the. I don't know. It might be an hour's time difference. That's about 3,600 seconds, so that might explain the difference. Size on disk. Oh, there we go. So that's the time, the current time. It knows the current time. That's more like it. That was a few That was 5972 and 61. Yes, that's 59. That was 300. That was about 5 minutes ago. Yeah, that's much more like it. Yeah, so I can't remember what medium time is. Verification process, so 99.999997% verified. And warnings none. So that's looking pretty good. This code, I can put on GitHub if you want. If anybody wants it, just put in the comments you'd like to have a copy of it. Again, I used ChatGPT just to make it. It's let me show you what it got for me. Yeah, so I said, here's an example of Python code demonstrates how you can retrieve the price of recent transactions. No, that's not your transactions. That's transactions on the blockchain. So you're just doing an API request to CoinGecko. It's nothing very exciting there. So yeah, if you want the code for the Rust code to go off and get, it's very good because it's obviously compiled. So you, yeah, provided you've got the same platform. Say you've got three Ubuntu laptops, you can just, or also you could compile it on, like if you've got a Linux web server, you could just put it on there, and then you could turn it into an API. If you're good at Rust, you could probably use Axum and make your own API. But then why would you be making an API to publish information that you can get from another API? That wouldn't make sense, would it? If you're interested in Bitcoin memes, check out Yellow. Everyone who follows Bitcoin likes memes, so Yellow. If you're interested in searching for some video content about Bitcoin, find that bit.com, find that bit.info. Either address will come to the same place. I've set up a redirect on Nginx. That concerned me for a while because I kind of launched findthatbit.com and I needed to set up a second server because the first server had an issue where I couldn't add more videos because I'd done something silly with the Quadrant database or the storage for the Quadrant database. So I set up a second server, and because I wanted to actually use it in anger or in production, I bought the domain name findthatbit.info, and then I had to redirect findthatbit.com to findthatbit.info. So if you put in findthatbit.com, it will redirect to findthatbit.info. So let's see what it's most likely to come up. Let's put in green bananas. Charlie Munger should not buy green bananas. So yeah, if you want to hear more about Charlie Munger, go to my video called "New Project Coming Soon: Python plus Sentence Transformer." That was kind of the little preview or the pre-release preview of the findthatbit.info, findthatbit.com project. So there we go. That is an overview of how to connect to your Raspberry Pi using Visual Studio Code and make edits. So what did I do? I used pretty print there, didn't I? What should I do? What should I change? Let's just make it not use pretty print. Oh, I did WQ, excuse me. So it's just because I did WQ, it exited the VSCode window. There we go, so I'll run it, and instead of it being pretty printed like that, it's just done in standard print, which is just stuffed it all in there. So yeah, that's kind of a little guided tour of Bitcoin full node running Python and querying your full node using Python on a Raspberry Pi. I've got various scripts there that I've kind of collected from different places. If you want them, let me know. Probably the best thing to do is if you, even before you start writing Python code, just to actually understand whether your node's connected and stuff, just run bitcoin-cli and then get connection count. If you want to know where all the kind of the setup goes on for, so if you want to actually see how to create a bitcoin.conf file, here is a Bitcoin Core config generator compatible with Bitcoin Core 25.0, which is the latest version. What you need to do is edit your bitcoin.conf file and add some additional bits and pieces so that you can enable remote connections. So home.bitcoin directory, then bitcoin.conf. That's where you need to store your bitcoin.conf file, assuming you've already set up Bitcoin Core. If you haven't already set up Bitcoin Core, I think it was for 24.0, but you can modify it. I've actually done a video, which I'll put the link to, where you can set up Bitcoin Core from a script. And it's quite nice because it creates all the directories and it's that's all the checks and everything. So yeah, without further ado, this is config for Linux. So if you choose here, you've got Windows, Linux, Mac OS, X. If you scroll down, that's a bit annoying. That goes with it. Anyway, come down here and you will get to RPC API and enable RPC server. So if you click that and then go back up, you'll see it's added to the config. Accept command line and JSON RPC commands server equals 1. So that's the important bit. Then what else? Accept public REST API requests. Just see what that adds. I don't think we want to be doing that. No. So it's just added a 1 there as well. So it seems like it just adds the name of the feature and then adds a 1. So bind RPC address. You don't need to set that. I think it defaults to localhost. You can add an RPC auth cookie, username and hashed password for JSON RPC connections. Oh, so you can hash, yeah, you can hash your username and password and then gives you a bit more security if somebody else was to log on to your server. RPC port, that's the default. allow IP address. Okay, so I could put on my network, I'd be 192.168.1. Whatever the IP of my laptop I'm logged in as. Let's say it's 12. There you go, and you see it's added that RPC allow IP 192.168.1.12. So you get the idea. It's all here, and just need to Google for Bitcoin Core config generator. Oh, and you've got some defaults there. So let's try Raspberry Pi. You want to overwrite the current config? Yeah. So that's done some optimization for the Raspberry Pi based on the fact it's probably got less RAM. Mempool equals 50, max connections equals 40. You saw earlier my connections were on 33. So yeah, this is a really good place to get started, and this kind of it builds the config for you. So I did a slight faux pas when I set mine up in my bitcoin.conf is on my mounted volume, which is my SSD. I think my logic was that if my Pi or the memory, the SD card on the Raspberry Pi ever fails, then I would still have my bitcoin.conf file because it would be on my SSD terabyte drive. I think I've got a copy on both, but it's actually reading it from the SSD, which again, the SSD could fail, so then you'd be in trouble anyway. So yeah. But that's where you create the config. I just wanted to cover that really because what I showed you with my Python code, you need the username and the password, which is stored in the .env file. So you read the username and password out of the env file, but they actually need to be set in the bitcoin.conf file because that's what is that's what it's comparing against. There's lots of other stuff in here as well, which I don't know about, but you can configure the behavior of your wallet. That's if you want to run a wallet on your Raspberry Pi. Again, that's a whole different topic because you've always got to think, what if the Raspberry Pi fails? Or what if the SD card fails? More to the point, I think that's probably the bigger risk. So that's that for now. Thanks for watching. I'll be back soon.